In this class we're going to look at the differences between business and academic reports. We're going to contrast the two types of report and see what the differences are precisely. So if we look at a business report, the sections in the business report could be something like we've got on the slide at the moment. We could have a title page, an executive summary summarizing all of the report, the most important parts, a table of contents, an introduction, the body of the report itself, a conclusion, a reference list, and an appendix if it's required. So a business report may be structured in that way. Now the contents of the report could be on the title page. The title of the report should be entered, the author's name and the submission date. And under the executive summary, an overall view or a précis, if you like, of the contents. Also it should mention the analytical method used in developing the report's findings, and any recommendations flowing from the findings. In the table of contents, it's a list of headings and subheadings with their associated page numbers, indicating where different references are used throughout the report. Now in the introduction, which comes after this lot, the terms of reference of the report should be mentioned, and also an outline of the report's structure, telling the reader what is going to happen, what's going to come up next. In the main body of the report, there will be sections on the purpose and rationale for the report. Why was the report commissioned in the first place? Why did it happen? What methodology was used in the report? What data collection methods and what assumptions were made, if any? Also, comparisons of outcomes with relevant literature or expectations. The outcomes from the report may be contrasted with what people believe to be the situation, or what was surmised before the report was done. The report may confirm the beliefs that were held beforehand, or the report, of course, may disagree with the beliefs. It may change the different perspectives held before the report was issued. And also, of course, looking at the limitations of the report itself and its criticisms. In the conclusions, well, list the findings of the report and the recommendations based on the findings. The recommendations should just be based on the findings. If they're not based on the findings, then they're outside the remit of the report. The reference list, well, list all the reference material that was used, and in the appendix put in any materials that were mentioned, I should say, and which were not or are not easily found. Perhaps interviews or reports which would be obscure for the general reader to find. So make it easy for the reader. If there are bits of material that have been used, reference them and include them in the appendix, or in the appendices if there's more than one. Now let's contrast the business and academic reports. Well, that's the business report. It's broadly aimed at co-workers, supervisors and management. The review section, well, it looks at past reports, the business procedures, the best practices, what's going on in the industry, what's been recommended, what's the state of technology, what is the likely future course of the market, and so on. The proposals and plans within the business, what's been proposed. Investigation of past failures, what was done in the past and why they didn't work, or why they were not successful, and how to develop new practices, procedures and products. Now, the purpose of the business report, well, it's to solve a problem. There must have been a problem, and the report is aimed at solving it. So it's recommending a business change. And the target audience, well, it's the business personnel with shared values. Could be, as I said earlier, co-workers, supervisors, management. It could be wider shareholders, wider stakeholders, I should say, including shareholders or trade unions or even the local community. And the target audience, because the target audience is interested in the product and the business, of course the report will have a particular language, the language of the business. It will talk about the technology and the processes. So it will be understood by the target audience, but it may, to the layperson or the outside reader, it may seem a highly specialized piece of work. And the report length, well, the report length should be short and to the point. In business, big reports are not really required. Businesses don't have time to study big reports. And it may be assumed that the reader has an understanding of the context of the business, its market and its business processes. So the write-up can assume that the reader understands the market and understands the business, so it doesn't have to explain everything from first principles. Now, an academic report, by way of contrast, well, the academic report is aimed at tutors, classmates and journal readers, perhaps if it's published. So it's aimed at a completely different set of people. The review and discussion part, well, here there is a detailed review of the literature, and the literature will throw up some testable hypotheses which can be used as the basis for the inquiry itself. So here the literature is a published literature, and out of this the hypothesis may be derived. Whereas with the business report, it was past reports, business procedures, best practices and so on. And the purpose of the report, well, the academic report is to simply add to knowledge. That's the purpose of it. And also to demonstrate research skills. Whereas with the business report, it was to solve a problem and recommend a business change. This one is to add to knowledge and to demonstrate research skills. Totally different. The target audience, well, for the academic report, it's the shared academic values are assumed. It should be logical and value-free language, and it should be jargon and slang-free. Whereas with the target audience for the business report, there was a shared language, the language of the business, with its specialized words describing processes and products and technologies and so on. With the academic report, jargon-free and slang-free, if possible, which it usually is. The report length, well, the business report, as I said, should be short and to the point, whereas the academic report, well, it tends to be a lengthy piece of writing. It normally has an extensive review of the relevant literature. It normally has a detailed methodology for the research to be conducted. The methodology has its own section which will elaborate how the research is going to be conducted. And also there is the development of research hypotheses based on the literature. So having read the literature, this extensive literature which has been reported in that section, the literature can then be used to derive the hypotheses which will be tested. which is the basis of the research work. And it also gives, of course, an account of the research procedure. The findings as accepting or rejecting the hypothesis. The findings either accept or reject. They're accepting the hypothesis or they're rejecting the hypothesis. So they are totally different creatures. The business report is doing a totally different job, if you like, to the academic report, and they are in stark contrast. Right, so that's all I need to do to distinguish academic reports from business reports, and I think most of it is on the slide in front of you right now. So let's leave it at that and say thank you for watching.